The Sony FX3 is the only camera you will ever need. The funny thing about the Sony FX3 is that it isn't even an original camera. It is a powerhouse and slightly unlocked Sony A7S III. These days, it is shifting more towards being a jacket pocket size Sony FX6. The Sony FX3 is marketing and recycling done well. If you can get your hands on the Sony A7S III for still, go with that. And if you can get your hands on a Sony FX3 even slightly under market price, go with that one instead. But if you are set on getting the Sony FX3, then get the FX3. Don't cut corners. Don't settle. Save up. Get the FX3. Because even if Sony came out with the Sony FX3 II tomorrow, skip that one. Get this one because an updated version might come with some slight updates. Of course, some of the newer features. But if you aren't a content creator who's going to get the camera just to boast about it and have it to solely use the camera for content purposes, then you don't need the newer one. Even if you're buying the camera for client work, you can get away with the Sony A7 III or the A7S III if you're looking for quality. And you can go with one of the cameras from this A6000 or the ZV line if you're just creating content for social media. Go with the ZV line or the A6000 line if you're creating social media content for clients that aren't looking for you to create a small film. Not saying you can't create work that look like a small film with a 600 or a ZV line. You can, but if you are on the market for one of these cameras, then you know you're probably not trying to create a small film. You're wanting to create content that may have a filmic look or quality to it. Now, when it comes to choosing the FX3, the A7S III, or a camera from the 6000 or Z line, you could argue that choosing the camera you get depends on the content you want to make when creating for clients, especially if you're creating for clients that have a higher budget. Make sure you have the gear that matches the budget. Even if you are creating content for yourself, if you're creating work that needs to look a certain way, make sure you are investing in the gear you need and not the gear you want. Ambiguity and subjectivity aside, if you can find the Sony FX3 for steal, then this is the only camera you need when it comes to content creation for 5 reasons, which I'll be getting into in just a second here. I just want to say that the FX3 is a video-centric camera, but you can take photos with this for social media. Pixel count with this camera for photos doesn't matter. Honestly, pixel count only matters for the work you're creating. I don't care about pixel count for what I create professionally when starting out in real estate photography. I shot photos with a 10.5 megapixel camera and the clients love the work. Right now, I shoot real estate with the Sony A7 IV, a 33 megapixel camera. The 33 megapixels are great, but do I need all of them for the work I'm producing? No, but this camera doubles as a B cam when I'm out doing client work with the Sony FX3 and depending on the project, an A cam. I choose the cameras I need based on the work I am creating for social media and for clients and for myself. Will I one day swap out the A7 IV for another FX3 or the FX30? Highly likely. Waiting for the right time and the right price before I do that. Now let's get into the 5 reasons. The Sony FX3 is a highly capable camera because of 5 specific reasons: the sensor, body design, button layout, riggability, and adaptability. Although the Sony FX3 sensor has been recycled and reused before and after this camera, this is a great sensor that reigns supreme when it comes to its low light ability and color science. The internal processor of this camera is great, but always remember this one fact. The camera is only as great as the glass you have in front of it and the quality of the light you fill your scenes with. But in the end, all of that is trumped by the user. I give the sensor an 11.5 out of 10. The body design, though, sleek, matte, easy to hold, not too heavy, easy to fit in the bag. It is sharp on the corners, and it can dig into your palm when holding after an extended period of time. You can't deny it looks premium. Sony did not cut any corners. I mean, they did because the corners are pretty sharp on this camera, but they did a great job. I was sold on this body design when it came out with the first Sony A7C. As soon as I saw the FX3, I know I was going to ditch the A7C for the FX3, but I don't want to say that's a takeaway from the Sony A7C. I think the Sony A7C still produces great work. The A7C and the A7 III were my first complete content creation and client work kit. If you get that combo today for a steal, don't hesitate. I do want to backtrack and say it's not really the first kit I had. It is the first complete kit that I had no problems with. I enjoyed using that kit. Sony FX3, body design, 10 out of 10. I've been eyeing the Lumix X9 because of its body design. Would love to run around Chicago with that body in my hands to see what I can create. The FX3's button layout is convenient. The record button is right where my thumb can hit it when I'm out recording handheld. And then there's the second record button, which I use when I'm recording these type of videos, when I'm using a side handle or when my right hand is occupied, I go for this button right on the front, very convenient. You also have specific buttons that are tied to the camera exposure triangle functions: the shutter, ISO, and the iris. In photography terms, the shutter speed, ISO, and the aperture. You also have a focus magnification button, a white balance button, a D-pad button, and more programmable buttons to really customize the FX3 to your liking. So far, best button layout I've experienced. I give the button layout a 9.5 out of 10. Now, the button layout is great when it comes to the FX3's riggability. You can almost rig this camera up in any way you want. There is one thing I think would be great on a rig for this camera, and that is a rosette mount that comes built into the cage to attach this right hand small rig handle that has a record remote button. This is a right hand side handle, and most of the cages I've come across only have a left hand rosette built into the cage. So I've had to attach this rosette attachment that is annoying to take on and off when I want to use it. If you know any workarounds or solutions and or cages that are out there that are better than the setup I have here, definitely let me know. Aside from that, you can fully rig the FX3 out or not rig it at all and still achieve nearly the same results. I use this camera in 3 configurations, which I talk about in this video linked in the description. When it comes to riggability, I give it an 8 out of 10. On top of all of that, the Sony FX3 is a highly adaptable camera, and that is all because of the E-mount. The E-mount is fully adaptable. You can adapt almost any lens known to man, even if you get severe vignette when you use the lenses. You want to go and shoot a shot that looks like you're looking through a pipe or a barrel, then get some of these super cheap CCTV lenses and be as creative as you want to be. You can adapt everything from these CCTV lenses to high-end cinema lenses that my savings wouldn't allow me to get in to show you for this video, but they are out there, they exist, and you can create great things with all of them with the highly adaptable mount of the Sony FX3. When it comes to adaptability, I give the FX3 a 10 out of 10. You know what else is 10 out of 10? My past 5 videos, which you can watch after you like and subscribe to this video. Show the other videos some love while staying awesome. Stay awesome.